Welcome back to a holodeck by August. Or what if object storage would actually be done in a way that is completely interoperable, seamless, and as reliable, stable, and taken for granted as file and folder names are right now. They're like omnipresent, like any system, any architecture, any whatever, any use case. The one thing that the digital world comes together on is the file system that says, well, whatever you write, at some point you'll 99.9% chance will give it a file name and a folder position. And if everything changes, there will be a file and a folder position with a file name, and hopefully the data will not be corrupt. So I want to suggest something like this for metadata with data payload. What does it mean? So imagine you have one file, like a piece of music, and it'll be an MP3 file. So you have your payload, that's your actual music, that's what you actually are interested in. I usually am. And you have the metadata, like title, artist, year, album. Hopefully someone bothered to put the tags in there. It'll be really nice and be more fun to deal with, well, if you have more than just one file. If you have like a musical collection or picture files, more and more people are creating more and more files, and they're creating it on different devices. And no, it's not a digital camera anymore. It's probably their mobile phone, and they'll make photos, videos, sometimes audio recordings. But I think most people who would have done audio recordings probably do video recordings right now, like I do here. So, what would be the next step? What about file names and folder names? You can just keep them, and you can keep more than one. You can like have multiple file names to the same file and multiple folder names to the same file, because it's an object now, and it has its data payload that is like, again, that would be your music in an MP3 file. That'd be your image. That'd be like your JPEG compressed image or whatever image data inside whatever image format, like JPEG, TIFF, PNG, GIF, whatever. Actually, at some point, any file format that stores an image has payload. Here's my image, even a bitmap. And the tags for describing this, like the file name, just a tag. Folder name, just a tag. Title, artist, author, title, year, camera, whatever, technical data, descriptive data, just tags. For simplicity, let's start this with name value tags, just like name, value, title, creator, date, and so on. Okay, good. That's what object storage is already doing. And if we can implement this on a local hard drive and main operating systems in a way that is as to be taken for granted, like file names and folder names and all programming APIs and so on, and programming libraries, perfect. Then it starts to really take off. But to get there, probably you may want to have more incentive for what's this person here talking about. Well, another thing that makes a difference, you have your file with payload and metadata tags, an object. Okay. Now, what if you can create an object without a payload? That would be like a 0-byte file. But now it would not have 0 bytes actually, because you now have more than just a file name. You can give it a file name, you can give it folder names, you can tag it, you can use this as a metadata container. And you would see it on a file system level. You'd be like, file manager, right click, new object, no payload. You just want to take a note, describe something. You'd be like, yeah, but that's a text file. I'm like, is it? What if I want to describe other objects? I'm like, yeah, then describe the object. You just said you can put metadata with the objects. I'm like, yeah. What if I want to describe relationships? This is where I'm not clear about the actual implementation, because think about this. So you have your audio file, and you have an image. And that image is actually a picture from the drummer from that band. How would you know? Do you know? So I would know. So like, hey, cool. I just take my file manager, go like, relate them to each other, and now describe that relation. Like, yeah, that's a picture of the drummer from that band. And I can either put that metadata with the photo. I can just like add tags like musician type, drummer, band, that and that. But he was also playing in multiple bands. Well, I'll just add more metadata and then be like, yeah, but how exactly would you want to describe this? And now it's getting a bit dirty if you put everything to an object, so I just split it off and I go like, I create an object for describing stuff, and I'm like, you know what? This object now, just a metadata object, is a relationship between that musical track or album and that image. And I can say duration from this time period, that was the drummer in that band. Save. And now there's like this object in my file system. I can now use my file system as a catalog. I can make relationships. If you think about it, if you have a system like this, which is nothing new, it's just not, the applications are not yet treating it that way, and you'll probably have a hard time to copy these objects from an object storage to a USB stick, because the file system on local storages does not keep the data yet. But just in the past, like the jump from 8.3 digits in a file name to 250 plus characters, even umlauts and spaces, please don't, in a file name was a decision, and it caused a lot of trouble, but the world agreed upon that actually it'd be nice to break this 8.3 barrier, and we did. So let's do this again and just break the barrier between why does my data payload, why do my files and my metadata have to be so separate? Like, there's a huge gap. And by putting metadata on the file system level and actually agreeing upon doing so, it'll just make so many tricky use cases and migrations and program application barriers. It'll just dissolve them. You can now take whatever application you like to describe your files, work with your files, and now they're objects. You copy them over, and I don't care which application you use, because it just put tags in there. And I just have to have ways of viewing these metadata objects and tags in a way that suits me. More on that in the next session.